Great. Well, thanks very much for the introduction, Tammy. As always, I really appreciate being here today and having the opportunity to present some of the stuff that we've been doing with Improve Your Marketing to everybody on the webinar. So today we're going to be going through round 4 of 5 of Improve Your Marketing. Last week we had a session on nurturing your customers where we're really focusing on how we can get prospects that you have some initial contact with to convert. This is kind of the next stage of this process, if you will. Now that we've gotten people to convert, how can we grow their engagement? How can we grow our interaction with them? And yeah, like I said, it's the 4th of 5 sessions. We've got one more session next week to sort of wrap it up with customer retention. But what I'm going to do today is focus really on strategies that we have designed and identified to help grow your customers, to grow engagement, to increase order value size, and just get them to become more and more valuable. So we're going to focus on that specifically. But I do also appreciate that there's probably people on the webinar today that haven't gotten an introduction to Improve Your Marketing yet. So I'm going to spend the first 5 minutes here of this webinar just giving a little intro into what it is, how it works, just so we're all on the same page. Then we're going to dive into customer growth use cases and specific tactics and strategies, and then just do a little wrap up at the end. So without further ado, let's dive into that Improve Your Marketing explanation. So what is Improve Your Marketing? Essentially, it is a web page. It's under that URL. It's improveyour.marketing. So really easy to remember. And yeah, I think the best way to describe what it is that it's designed to be an interactive customer portal where you can actually prioritize what is important to you as a business. You can then select tactics that align with those priorities and goals. We can then further prioritize individual tactics based upon sort of a value assessment, and then finally put together some strategy documentation that you can share internally or with your agency or with your teams or your CMO, either as sort of ideas that can be shared and new strategies that can be implemented, but also something that's supposed to act a little bit more like a guideline and a project plan to keep things aligned. Started off as a static document, but just a PDF of 100 tactics, basically a collection of those tactics put together in an ebook, but we've now actually made it really interactive. And so the first step is what you see here. You pick whether you want to focus on customer acquisition, customer nurturing, growth, or retention. We then get another step where we can actually prioritize these tactics. So we see here under effort, investment, and value, sort of what our bang for buck is, which one of these tactics is going to provide the most value at the lowest effort. That's kind of our lowest hanging fruit. We can then prioritize based on high, medium, low priority. And finally, the system will actually put together a project plan where we can see all of these tactics that we've collected. We can see what goals that they're focused on. And yeah, we can basically use that, as a communication document internally, anywhere from CMO in terms of goal alignment all the way to the actual practitioners, piecing together the campaigns and putting together the creatives and all of that part. Yeah, I think it's a really great portal. It's designed really for anybody, for digital marketing teams, at clients that are trying to put together new ideas, trying to communicate. It's also a great solution for, I think, agencies and partners and other sort of digital companies out there that are working with clients to help more client success, just to really help with alignment and all that. And of course, it's great for us when we're talking to customers to actually be able to put specifics into project plans and not just talk about sort of vague functionalities. So beyond those benefits, why did we do this? What are our goals behind all of that? We really wanted to provide a much more tangible approach to marketing projects, something that actually put sort of practical considerations first. We also really wanted to help organizations focus on ROI, because we think traditionally these digital marketing projects often start with sort of features. What have I got available? What can I do? Then I come up with some cool idea of what to do, and then after I've run that campaign, I try to come up with some sort of a justification and find a KPI that's actually improved to justify why I've done the campaign in the first place. We think it would be much better to focus on the underlying strategy first, decide what it is that as an organization you want to pursue, what your goals are, what your focus is, and then go from there to figure out what are the best strategies to achieve that, what are the tools that we have, can we implement those strategies, or do we maybe even need to improve or change our tool set? So much more of an alignment from a strategy and vision perspective through the features all the way to setup, and then finally ending in sort of the analytics and insights so that we can go back and reformulate our strategy for round 2, 3, 4, and so on. It's also going to keep your projects a lot more agile, so really focus on what is needed only and avoid overblown implementations. And I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, just being a transparent communication framework all the way from C-level down to the digital marketer, to the practitioners, to the implementation specialist. That's something that's really needed if we want to retain alignment with the goals that we set out to achieve in the beginning. All right, so hopefully that's a pretty decent overview of what the Improve Your Marketing portal is all about. It is an interactive portal. Like I said, you can go see it online under improveyour.marketing. We'd like to encourage everybody here to please sign up for an account. It's completely free. Go ahead, check it out, log in, create a profile. You can even become a contributor, get really interactive with it. But now what we're actually going to do is go to the next step and talk about specific strategies that we can use to grow our customers. All right, so I touched on it a little bit in the introduction, but I just want to take a couple of minutes here to talk about what we mean by growing your customers. Essentially, customer growth is not so much about growing the number of customers in my database. I think that's really something that's more covered by customer acquisition. So that would be turning individual users into customers, or basically getting them to become prospects. How do I acquire these customers? How do I get them to become interested in my brand? Then we have nurture. How do I nurture them along the path to actually become paying customers? And now we have grow. And so I think customer growth is really all about engagement, if you will, stickiness of your customers. And I think it's actually pretty similar to what we do in the nurture process, practically speaking. But the difference is a little bit of goal orientation. So whereas in the nurture process, we're really focused on getting that client to, or getting that prospect to become a client, getting them to sign up to our portal, to our offering, to buy their first product and place their first order with us. This is really about taking them from that stage and making them more valuable, turning them into long-time customers, and growing their value with you. So yeah, I actually think that this area is probably the area of our Improve Your Marketing portal. If you go in there and look at the individual goals, acquire, nurture, grow, and retain, I think for growth, we have more suggested tactics than for anything else. So as I said, please go in there, go ahead, check it out, see for yourself which might be most suitable towards your priorities and the type of business that you have. Yeah, what I've done here in this presentation and what I'm going to be talking about now is essentially 5 of my favorite tactics that I've just selected really as placeholders to present today and explain to you why I think they're really, really valuable, why I think they can help you grow your customers, and also give a few tips about practical implementation examples, how different brands are using them, and what you can do to set this up and actually benefit from it. So the first strategy that I've selected here to help you grow your customer engagement, it's honestly, it's really more of a prerequisite for, I think, effective omni-channel marketing, and that is to increase the identification rates of customers coming to your website. Why is this really important? Because if we can't effectively identify our customers, then we're not going to know who they are, and hence what kind of information and products they could be interested in. And that, of course, takes away our ability to help personalize that visitor's customer journey based on their affinities and past behavior, and overall just make it more relevant to them. So what do we really need to be able to identify returning visitors to our site, even if they haven't done something like logged in or found some other way to identify themselves? I think there's a few things here that are really, really important to consider, and that are really the strong requirements these days to effectively do this. And the key word here is effectively, because the landscape, as I think we all know, is constantly changing, and things are just really getting more restrictive. And so over the last few years, we've seen a really strong push towards data privacy, and that's also resulted in ever increasing restrictions regarding tracking technology, especially third-party cookies, which were previously sort of a marketer's best friend. It was a really great way to identify people, to find them back on other platforms. and to get a better understanding of how they're interacting with your website, but also sort of the rest of the web. Now, what's happened is these third-party tracking technologies are being phased out more and more by the browser manufacturers. So some browsers like Firefox and Safari have actually completely blocked third-party cookies. And so I think one thing that's really important in this aspect here, or in this tactic, is that you have a high-quality first-party tracking solution like Mapp, so that you can re-identify users that are coming back to your website the moment that they show up. It's also really important to ensure that that technology is able to track customers beyond the increasingly restrictive limits on first-party cookies as well, because that's the next stage. Browsers and technology are becoming more restrictive on first-party cookies and limiting their validity. And so I think Safari is now limiting cookies, first-party cookies, even to 7 days, after which they automatically expire, and 30 days on Google Chrome. And so if you use that first-party cookie technology and first-party tracking technology, which Mapp has available, it's also important to understand that some of the solutions out there are not going to allow you to track beyond those limits, and others are. We at Mapp have found a way to sort of circumvent those limits and be classified as pure first-party tracking technology. And so especially if you have a longer customer journey that goes beyond the 7 or 30-day limit, I think having that full sort of customer lifetime history and being able to increase people over time is not really just a huge value, but it really is an absolute prerequisite to be able to do effective email marketing. And then I think beyond that, you're also going to have some really, really practical benefits. So knowing that somebody has come to your website before, and maybe even knowing that you have their email address on file, can be really valuable, because once that person leaves your website, if you didn't know that you had their email, really you'd have to spend ad spend on retargeting them on Facebook or some DSP. But if you know that you have the email on file, you can of course send them an email and save ad spend on some of the other more expensive retargeting options. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next tactic. And that is on-site personalization. Really, this, I think, is sort of the next step, right? What happens after your customer comes to your website and you've identified them? Now that you know who they are, what they've looked at, and what they bought before, you can start to put together a personalized series of interactions that help engage your customers, anticipate their needs, and do things like get them to order again or add more products to their basket. And I think on-site personalizations can be really, really effective, but they can also take many forms. And we've talked about some of these examples in our last 2 webinars on this topic as well. So this could include things like category or product recommendations, basket builders, pop-ups that might engage with a visitor based on their current or past behavior. Another really simple one is just making sure that their shopping cart is filled with any products that they may have placed in there before on their last visit. It always frustrates me when I maybe even get an email from somebody and say, hey, come back, visit our website, and then I get there and it doesn't know who I am and my cart's not full, and now I've got to go log in again. It's just really inconvenient, and also indicates to me that my vendor doesn't really know me that well. And so I think having those identification abilities and also making sure that you've implemented all those convenience features like basket builders and fillers is really, really important, because it's going to make things a lot easier for your customers. You could also maybe do some things like show visitors their last products viewed in a series of on-site product recommendations, kind of like those that you see at the bottom there, when they come back to the site. So maybe they haven't gone as far as placing them in the cart, but that doesn't mean you still can't show them stuff that they've shown interest in. And so just recognizing that and making sure that you're engaging with your customers on those levels is really important. And maybe one sort of a couple of last examples here. If they've reached a certain stage of their customer journey, maybe they've come to your website and they've clicked through to a certain category, maybe they're interacting with a product, doing some size chart checking and those sorts of things. If they're indicating a high probability to buy, then maybe there's other interactive stuff that you want to do on site to sort of nudge them along. So you could show them a relevant product review that some other buyer has left on that particular product that they're interested in. Or maybe even a perfectly timed pop-up that offers them another 10% off for completing their order at that time. So again, I think lots and lots of things that we can do here. Optional add-on products before checkout. So, you know, maybe I bought a shirt. Are there any pants to go with that? Are there any shoes to go with that? If I buy a lamp, maybe I want to, you know, add on some light bulbs or some power strips, those kind of things. So add-on products, another great way that you can actually take an active role in personalizing their customer journey with relevant and engaging information. And maybe just as a little highlight here, another shout out, we've actually had quite a few people submit new tactics, and one of the ones I think is particularly relevant to that. So I just want to highlight really quickly tactic number 101, which has been submitted by another contributor, and that is personalize the homepage carousel. And so that's kind of that product carousel that you see when you visit a homepage, really gives you the ability to personalize a piece of your homepage while still routing people to that homepage for sort of your major campaigns and newsletters. All right, let's move on to the next one. Tactic number 3, countdown timers. I think these are really a great way to engage customers because they communicate a sense of urgency and are thereby really effective in accelerating the buying funnel for customers, especially if these special offers and promotions that you're sending them are personalized to their interests and very relevant. And I think another thing that's really, really key is understanding the user behavior that your users have exhibited in the past in order to get these things right. So on the one hand, of course, it's what kind of a promotion are we going to run? What products are we promoting? Whom are we promoting them to? But also things like how long should this promotion run for maximum effectiveness? Of course, we don't want to make it, you know, run for 3 weeks because then there's no sense of urgency. But if we make it run for the next 2 hours, we're probably not going to get a lot of uptake either. And so having data available, and especially sort of user-centric raw data available to understand what are the times that people are opening emails, not just what's the average time that people open emails, but when do people open emails? How long on average does it take for them to open it and to actually become aware of this offering that you're put in? Then from there, how long does it take them to respond and actually complete the call to action and click on it? Do they do that immediately or do they come back? How does this differ by segment? How does this differ by message? How can I make the offer in question more relevant to each specific user and take into account all of the things I know about them? And all of that is a really data-driven approach to help you get the timing of these right, and then also figure out what's the best send-out time, what's the best time to run these promotions. But of course, in order to do that, you need to have the underlying data. Another related example that I think it's pretty much the same thing, but from a slightly different angle, that's not mentioned here is rather than having a countdown timer that sort of shows the scarcity of time, you could also have a stock countdown. So if you're selling things in an e-commerce environment, you could show things like only 2 or 3 left in stock to essentially achieve the same kind of goal. What you're doing is you're generating that sense of scarcity and urgency in your customers. And that can be a very powerful psychological nudge, I think, especially if these customers or prospects are already strongly considering buying the product, having a look at those particular products and reviews, and you know, really at the level of engagement. So make sure these things are personalized, but also don't be shy about adding a little bit of urgency and exclusivity by using, just concepts like scarcity. Okay, so we are going to get to our next tactic here if my presentation plays along. And this is actually the part of the presentation which I always get really excited about. Well, this is a unique presentation, but whenever I can talk about true omni-channel marketing, it really gets me excited about the possibilities that we have these days. And especially so when these things include audience exchanges from online to sort of an offline real world environment, because I think there's still so little utilization of that, and there's still so much opportunity there. And QR codes, I think, can be really, really effective in making that connection between offline and online users, and having that connection, increasing that connection, sort of giving them the ability to interact with you in the real world, but also online, whichever way is the most convenient, is really going to increase the stickiness of your customers, adds sort of to the brand loyalty they have towards you, and thereby really help grow your customers. Okay, so what are we going to talk about here specifically? I think, you know, we've mentioned sort of the offline online thing. That's really what QR codes are so good at. And what I'm going to do is maybe just give a couple of examples that we've seen with our clients who are effectively using these QR codes. So how could you implement this into your process? If you're an e-commerce shop, and you also have a retail location, maybe you actually want to provide mutual incentives to exchange audiences. Perhaps there are people that shop in your physical store that aren't even aware that you have a website and the convenience that it offers. And vice versa, maybe the person shopping in your online shop doesn't know that there's a shop within 5 miles of their home that they could actually go to, try things on, try things out. And so this is a really simple example. You could email QR codes with a special promotion for first-time shoppers in store. And you would, of course, target people that shop in your online shop. So everybody that placed an order now gets a QR code with a 10% discount for the first time they shop in store. Maybe you want to include maybe not a countdown timer. You could definitely include that, but also, some sort of limitation, some sort of scarcity in there to get them to actually have that sense of urgency. And vice versa, you could have, for example, scratch cards or other kind of flyers laying out with those QR codes, and just put them into the bag of anybody that completes an order at your physical store. And you're then doing the same kind of thing. You're making them aware of your online offering. You're maybe offering free shipping for first-time customers or something like that. And yeah, I think that, like I said, is a really, really great way of increasing that stickiness and getting people to identify with your brand, because once they interact with you across more than one channel, statistics really go up significantly for their level of loyalty and how likely they are to stick with you. And if you're a different kind of business, if you're a hotel chain with an attached restaurant, you could do something very similar. Hand guests that are checking in a QR code to be redeemed at the restaurant for a discount or something like that. And not only is it really going to help that customer stickiness and help your customers identify more with your brand, but it's really also going to help your data, because this really improves your cross-channel campaign attribution and helps you get a better understanding of how different channels can feed off and contribute to each other for a completely seamless customer experience. And I think beyond email, this can also be really, really successful for app users, because app users are usually very, very engaged already. And so maybe it's even something that we want to combine with our next tactic. And our next tactic is location-based notification. Now, because location is usually a very temporary state in humans, well, maybe not these days. I know I feel like I've been stuck here for quite some time and not moving around as much as I normally would. But generally, location is a very, very time-sensitive thing that you can use in order to provide people with the right incentives and the right triggers. And so I think the key there, because of that dynamicness and the time sensitivity, is that you really need to do it in real time. And in my experience, the only really effective channel on which to do this is mobile. So that would be either a text message or a push notification to people that have an app. You could probably do email, but it's just not going to be effective because most people aren't checking their emails every 5 minutes. And these use cases usually rely on a geofence, whereby people enter into a certain area. The moment they enter, they're informed of something, and then hopefully that will get them to complete a call to action of some sort, to maybe go visit a store, to complete a purchase. But if they're not reacting to that message, if they don't see it, it's pretty unlikely that 10, 15, 20 minutes later, they'll still be interested in that offer. So time sensitivity is absolutely key. And maybe one other thing to notice or to note here is that this kind of use case, of course, maybe not the last use case completely, but both of these use cases I think are especially and most relevant to clients that have a combination of offline and online touch points. And I think, these location-based notifications, kind of like I indicated with this time sensitivity and people being pushed notifications and information, can be a really amazing tool to increase customer engagement in the physical world, and getting whether they're diners or travelers or guests to your properties or actual customers buying stuff from you, to spend more time and money with you. And so, again, some examples here would be a restaurant. You've got a restaurant chain. You could send any customer who's got the app a special offer and coupon when they get within 100 yards of your property. If they've ordered from you before, maybe you even want to make some suggestions and say, hey, do you want to have the usual? Just go ahead and click here and we'll have it ready for you when you arrive, or something like that. So location-based notifications for restaurant, hospitality, entertainment. I think really the sky's the limit. If you're a hotel or a resort or a casino or something, there's probably even more that you can do. So, you know, pushing people, hey, here's $20 of free chips the moment you sort of walk off the gambling floor, or when you're moving over towards, you know, a competitive property, maybe you want to push some other message with some incentive or some other bit of information that would get your customer to stay on your property and spend more money with you. But I think also one thing that's really, really important here to pay attention to, and one thing that's ultimately going to determine the success of any of these campaigns, with any app-based communication, of course, is the number of people that you're going to be able to message. And so the key determinant in that is, of course, app usage and number of people that have downloaded the app. So you always need to find ways of incentivizing that. Don't ever think that people are just going to interact with you because you have sort of something interesting to say. There also needs to be some sort of an incentive and some sort of value to that customer in order for them to even open up that channel for you. So I think, of course, providing relevance and value is the best incentive for customers to download the app. But, you know, maybe if you're, let's say you're a hotel, maybe you can do some cool things like interactive programs for some of your restaurants or other properties. Maybe you've got, you know, shows that you're putting on, just informing customers. Maybe you have a special concierge feature that they can access only through the app, or a valet service where they can just, you know, click a button on the app and within 2 clicks, their car will be pulled up within 5 minutes without having to talk to somebody. Some of our customers have even experimented with things like keyless check-in or seamless checkout, so you don't have to go to the front desk to check out. Also possible to combine that with geofencing. And so lots of different things that I think can be used to provide value to customers. And that's the best way to get them not just to download the app, but also to keep using it. Traditional incentives also work very well. So 10% off for this or a free meal for that might work, but especially when it comes to the continued engagement, having actual value within the app and giving them a good reason to use the app is the best guarantee to have a high number of app users and to have these kind of app-focused campaigns be really, really effective. And again, I think, you know, geofencing can get really granular and sort of provide that interactive experience for your guests as they move across your property map to sort of the different pieces of your puzzle, if you will. But again, from an attribution perspective, you're also going to get all sorts of rich data points to help you better understand your customers, their behaviors, how they interact with different channels, and ultimately help you get better at marketing a little bit each time, because you're just gaining more understanding, more insight, and becoming more effective at it. All right, so that is my 5th strategy. We have gotten through this strategy bit. Like I said, we're going to have another webinar next week where we're going to focus on the last bit of this, and that's customer retention. But this is another moment for me to really put out our call to action, which is please join our digital marketing community. As I said, it's a completely free account, super easy to remember, improveyour.marketing. Sign up, create an account, add your own tips and tricks, and become part of the Mapp community. And if you have any feedback at all, please let us know. We've designed this to be a very interactive tool. We've also developed it quite quickly, so we're always adding new features. If you notice anything is not to your expectations, or you have any ideas on how it can be improved, please don't hesitate to contact us. We would love to hear from you. And then, as I said, we're going to be doing part 5 of 5 of our midsummer webinar series, where we're going to be focusing on customer retention. So if we are really good at getting people to come to our website, getting people to engage with us, getting people to place their first order, but then not so good at keeping them around, if we have a lot of customers leaving us, that is the point at which we should worry about customer retention. Of course, it's always a topic that we need to stay abreast of. So we will be focusing on specific strategies to retain your customers. And you can register today for that webinar at the link here below. And then I'd also like to briefly highlight another webinar that we're going to be hosting. It's going to be our Mapp Cloud Fall Update, where we're going to be talking about all the cool new features that we've developed in Mapp, and really there have been a lot here in this last quarter. And that's going to be on November 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. All right, and that's it from me today. Thank you very much for attending. Hope to see you again in a couple of weeks. And yeah, there's my email address. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, feel free to get in touch with me at any time. And we very much look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the week.